Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Griefdrums, and today we're going to be talking about suppressors in Rainbow Six. And before you turn off, before you quickly hit the back button and go back to find a different video because you think suppressors are whack, just hear me out a little bit first. So when it comes to Rainbow Six, there are a lot of attachments that are pretty controversial. For some reason, the community despises laser sights and despises suppressors, as well as some other attachments that are in amongst all of them. But for the most part, you are seen to be throwing or not playing properly if you're using some of these attachments. And I kind of want to dispel a couple of myths here. And I also want to kind of prove to you that this sort of an attitude can actually be hindering you. Now, to start off with, very quickly, we're going to run through a little bit of history here. When suppressors first came out in Siege, they weren't very good. And the reason for that is they had quite a severe damage nerf, if you will. There was quite a large offset. So if you were running a suppressor, you would have to fill people with far more bullets than if you were unsuppressed. And it doesn't really work like that in real life, but for the purposes of the game, it kind of made sense. It kind of meant that not everybody was running suppressors all the time, like they do on COD. It was kind of similar with laser sights as well. Back when they first released, they had a really long red beam, which actually extended from your gun all the way to the wall. So you could sort of trace it back exactly to where that person is. Now, laser sights don't operate in the same way that they used to, and subsequently there is now just a tiny little red dot, which, yes, if used incorrectly, can give you away. But I don't really want to talk about lasers today. I want to talk about suppressors. So it wasn't really widely broadcasted, but around about the time of Void Edge, suppressors actually got a little bit of a buff. And the way that worked was they didn't take quite as many bullets to put people down as they previously did. Now, I'm not Rogue 9. I really don't have the time to sit there just shooting at inanimate objects for entire weekends of my life. However, I have tested this through actually playing the game, and I have tested this a couple of times with a couple of different guns with friends, just to sort of get a baseline idea. As many of you will know that tune into my live streams, I love messing around with attachments and trying out weird and wacky setups and stuff like that, just to sort of see if anything has changed. And around about Void Edge, you may have noticed that Citizen of G2 started running the AUG, Wamai and IQ's weapon with a suppressor fitted to it. And at the time, everyone was like completely confused as to why he was doing this. But the reason for that is it takes no more bullets with that weapon, whether you are suppressed or unsuppressed. It takes the exact same amount of rounds at most gunfight ranges. Now, just to elaborate on that a little bit, obviously the further away you are, most guns have a damage drop-off, so they become weaker. So if you're stood one side of the map and someone else is stood on the other side of the map, the damage is not quite as powerful. Now, for most weapons in the game, it is going to now take either one or no more extra shots to put someone down. Now, this doesn't apply to all of the Defender SMGs. A lot of those have already got a bit of a weak damage model. Weapons such as the MPX, the MP5, and the T5, for example, require more shots because they've already got such a low damage model, and the amount of rounds that it takes to put people down already is pretty high. However, if it takes one extra bullet for an AR like Ash's R4C, and the fire rate is as high as it is, for the majority of gunfights you can actually get away with this. It doesn't really matter too much that there is an extra bullet required, because as I say, the fire rate is so high. Couple that with the fact that the game has a one-shot headshot mechanic. No matter what gun you are using, no matter how far away you are, one bullet can kill that person. Now, I will concede, as it's important to remember, that not every gunfight is going to be on your terms, and subsequently, if someone catches you out and you can't nicely position your barrel over their face, you're going to have to body shot them or just get whatever shots you can onto that player. So as a result, in those situations, suppressors may not be the best. However, this is one of probably only two downsides that I can see to running suppressors, with the other one being the recoil control. Now, obviously, by adding a suppressor, you lose the recoil bust that any other attachment would add. So, for example, a flash hider or a muzzle brake, you may be able to control the recoil better on your weapon. By adding a suppressor, you are back to the original recoil of the weapon, so if you had no attachment on it at all. So there are two downsides right there. Well, now that we've considered the negatives to utilizing a suppressor, let's actually start looking at some of the positives. For a start, obviously, you're going to get a quieter audio signature. You are not going to make as much noise when you're shooting at people, and subsequently, it can be a little bit harder to pinpoint whereabouts they are, especially in larger areas. On top of that, when you are shooting at somebody, if you do not have a suppressor fitted, you will be giving them these indicators. Now, if you haven't seen these before, it's probably because you are so balls deep into the game and fully concentrating on what is, you know, on the other side of your weapon. But these little indicators right here, red means you've been hit from this direction, and white means bullets are coming at you from that direction but haven't landed. These can be great for in-game for figuring out what on earth is going on and where you're getting shot from. But did you know that when you use a suppressor, the enemy player doesn't get these white markers? Obviously, if they're getting hit, then they get the red one. But the white markers, if any of your shots miss, they don't get informed of which direction that round has come from. The other cool thing about a suppressor is the white tracers that normally appear when you shoot, these things right here, come right out the barrel of your weapon, and they pretty much lead a direct path back to where you were shooting from for a fraction of a second. It can be really easy to figure out where a round has come from. Certainly Carly is a good example of this, because you get this huge white tracer zip past your screen and you know exactly where it's come from because you can follow it back to its target. When using a suppressor, you don't make these white tracers. Your gun doesn't produce them, and therefore people cannot figure out where you are shooting from. The third good thing about suppressors is the muzzle flash. Now, very often when you are shooting unsuppressed, you may end up with a screen that kind of looks like this for a few seconds or for a split second throughout the magazine. It seems like it's every third or fourth round you get a really large muzzle flash that fills your entire screen. Now, this varies depending on the attachment you're using, and an important factor is the fact that sometimes if you're trying to track a target, this can be really distracting, and you probably don't even realize that it is distracting you. But if this didn't appear on your screen at all and you could accurately trace where that person is the entire time, like you can with a suppressor, that's another nice little plus. Now, the content I've had running in the background showcases me playing as Ash. Now, I run Ash with the suppressor quite a lot, just because it triggers people for one, and then when they see the kill cam and see I'm running a red dot sight, it really winds them up. And that can throw them off for the rest of the game because they think, what the hell is this bot doing? But I love triggering people like that. Nevertheless, the clip itself showcases me playing Ash in more of a flex style role. She has so much utility now that she can do this, but that's for another video. The important thing to notice here is that as I shot the mute jammer out that Echo was stood right next to, he had absolutely no idea where the shots were coming from. So I had all the time in the world to just line up my shots and kill him. And it's exactly the same with this bandit here in the background. You'll notice that as I'm missing all my shots and just pre-firing like a madman where I've seen him, it doesn't matter that I missed any of those because of the fact that he has no idea where he's getting shot from. Now, I don't want to say to you, go and run suppressors. That's not what this video is about. I'm not saying you should run a suppressor on every single operator. And I'm not saying that they are the best attachment because, you know, there are other attachments with other perks that provide other benefits. So, you know, all I'm saying is consider them. Try them out. Don't be so narrow-minded and scared to use different attachments that you're not necessarily used to because no one else is doing it. Siege is one of those games where the devs love to change stuff and do it subtly. They love to change stuff without really broadcasting stuff that has changed. For example, the laser sights or the suppressor buff. The fact that you can open hatches with any weapon in the game was never really broadcasted. It's these kind of things that people find out through just playing the game and trying stuff out. So I would implore you to actually go away and try stuff. Citizen did it with a suppressed org in a pro league setting and saw great success with it. The only thing limiting you right now is your own mindset of saying suppressors are rubbish, don't ever use them. Laser sights are rubbish, don't ever use them. Shotguns. I mean, lmg-e is the king of proving that if something is seen as bad, for example, pulse on release of the game, that there are actually ways to make things more viable and to use them in a way that is going to provide you with more wins further down the line. Be creative, change the meta, don't just follow and copy what everyone else does. This game was the best back early on when people were actually trying to push boundaries rather than just copying all your favorite creators. Push the limits. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's going to be it for today's video. Hopefully it provides you a little bit of information and some food for thought. If you did enjoy the video at all, please consider hitting that thumbs up. If you don't already, make sure to subscribe, and until next time, stay reckless and relentless.